We got a busy one today. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, Congresswoman Kristen McDonald-Rivet will be with us this morning. At 11 o'clock, we'll talk to Dr. Brian Ye. He is with Karmanos Cancer Institute. We'll also be hearing from Terry Henney during the 10 and 11 o'clock hours because he's out and about at the Ag Expo. But for this hour, we welcome back and welcome again and congratulate the new Bay City manager, and he is a name that most of us are familiar with around here, Rick Heyman. Rick, good morning.
Good morning, Art. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, glad to have you. Glad to see you. Before we get into the business of Bay City and what you've seen since you've been there, give us a little Rick Heyman history.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, Art, but before I do that, one thing I really feel obligated to say to a certain extent. You know, I knew Bill Hewitt, and very sorry for the community's loss and for your loss, your personal loss on WSGW's. Bill was a great guy. I knew him way back when I was a reporter for a publication we used to call the Saginaw News.
Yeah.
And I have fond memories. Bill had a lot of sports stories, and if I remember right, he said his uncle played for the Chicago Bears. Now, I may not have that story exactly right, but we talked a lot about football and baseball.
Yeah. He was unique.
He was a great guy.
And he was, if you were in Hollywood, he'd be a character actor.
He certainly would have been a character actor. I'm surprised he wasn't picked out to do that. So a little bit, I guess a little bit about me then, Art. So I've been in Bay County and Bay City for the better part of 30 years. I actually grew up in up north, Oscoda/Wordsmith Air Force Base back in the day, and my parents were school teachers up there. This is honestly.
Have you been tested for PFAS?
PFAS is kind of a sensitive issue in Bay City right now with one of our fire stations. So we can talk about that in a bit. I've had done a lot of jobs. I was a journalist for a number of years. I've worked in government and politics. One of my mentors, probably in government, was County Executive Jim Barsha in Bay County when he was in Congress. Nobody can see me on the radio, and that's a good thing. My feet are dangling from the chair. I'm about 5'3", so I'm.
I've only got you by 4 inches.
That's right. That's right. So anybody who's shorter than Art Lewis is short indeed, right? But that's the basic of my story. I took this job primarily. Well, first of all, I've never had a job where I actually worked in Bay City, other than when I worked for Congressman Barsha at the time, and that was, a hybrid. I mean, that was D.C., that was Saginaw, that was Bay City. So this is great to wake up every morning and cross the Free Bridge to City Hall.
Oh, he starts right out.
I'm not afraid to talk about the bridges or the streets. These are opportunities, they're challenges, and we should talk about those things.
Just where did you come from? What was your last assignment?
My last assignment was with a marketing firm. People want to describe me as a marketing guy. I wouldn't say that's true, but I did spend 4 years at Good Marketing in Lansing, working with some government clients.
So you are named the new city manager. You spent a little time with Dana. How did you find the city? Well, if I give you a list,
I'll talk about how I found the city. I truthfully, I did not spend any time with Dana. We sort of crossed paths. I walked into an office, an empty office, and it's no longer empty. I found the city great. I found the staff incredibly welcoming. One of the things I'd love to do, and I'd love people to know, is if there were a way to pull back the curtain for every citizen in Bay City to see the professionalism, to see the real work that the 300 and plus employees of the city do every day. I don't think we skipped a beat, but it had nothing to do with me. I probably skipped several beats, but the professionals at City Hall, unfortunately one of the sad things is that quite often when people have interaction with government, it's not always a positive experience because they're not always there for positive reasons. But if you knew the work, if they knew the work that these professionals at City Hall and at the wastewater treatment plant and public safety and the fire departments and the electric utility the DPW, if they really knew the hard work and the caring people that worked at City Hall, I think they'd be pretty proud of that, the citizens of the community.
Yeah. All right, so let's look at a couple of topics. We might as well get this out of the way right off the top.
Sure.
The bridges are there. There's really not much you can do about it, is there?
It's a challenge. I think for starters, and this is really my focus. I've poured through the contract. I am not an attorney. They are lengthy. I think I've poured through 170 pages more than once, and so I'm at the very beginning of the Bridge War and Peace. I can tell you that I think really the most important first step with the United Bridge Partners is to ensure that they're adhering to the contract. Beyond that, we'll see. There's a lawsuit out there, but anybody can sue, and
yeah.
I can't really talk in detail about that, frankly, because I don't know that much about it at this point. I think we have a contract. Contracts go two ways, and it's the city's job to ensure the United Bridge Partners is adhering to every aspect of the contract. So more on that.
Yeah.
I will say this. Difference between my wife and I, but my wife is a person of convenience, so she crosses whatever bridge is close to get to where she needs to go. I'm a little bit more fiscally conservative, so I will sit in line and even waste gas to cross the free bridge.
I have a fear about this. Now, I don't live in Bay City, but I use the bridges occasionally, obviously. But I have a fear because the Lafayette Bridge is still at least a year out, if not more, and that the Vets Bridge is getting all that traffic. About the time the state gets done with the Lafayette Bridge, they're going to have to turn right around and look at the Vets Bridge.
Yeah, I can't tell you that's not true. We have the same concern. I've been assured that bridge is in good shape, but that's a fair point. With the increased traffic on that bridge, how long does it take before we see serious deterioration on that bridge? I don't have an answer to that. I'm not an engineer, but I have the same concern, Art.
Yeah, it just seems logical with the increase in the traffic, but time will tell. Time will tell, and what it is right now.
I have a little plaque that my family put up in our kitchen. Dad's favorite phrase is "It is what it is." Now, I may have some more favorite phrases as I continue in this job.
Yeah.
But,
and the other thing, and we'll talk about, I have to take a break here, but we'll talk about this because unlike Jim Barsha and Bay County that owns no roads, you have a different scenario. So we'll come back and talk about that. Talking to Rick Heyman. He is the new Bay City manager, and we will be back with him after these notes.
Back to school starts with Healthy Vision.
All right, we are back with you, Bay City manager Rick Heyman, in studio with me this morning. And when we last left, I reminded him that the county owns no roads, but the city owns all their streets. To which you say,
yeah, that's absolutely right, Art. And I say with a smile on my face, but on a serious note, that's probably that is my number one challenge. Somebody asked, what are the three issues that face Bay City, and I said neighborhood streets, and neighborhood streets. We have, and if I get this number wrong, I hope my streets director doesn't yell at me. I'm going to say approximately 125 miles of streets in the city. Some of those are what we call major streets, and they're eligible for typically more funding, easy to pay for this. So when somebody says, why are you doing, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. There was one I had the other day. I can't think about, if somebody asks, why are you doing this major road, Tuscola, for example, Tuscola Road. Why are you doing Tuscola and you're not doing Germania? Because we have money for Tuscola because it's a different funding source. 91% of local streets in Bay City have what they call PACER rating, which rates the condition of your road. Now, that doesn't take into account necessarily things like traffic count on those roads. They have a PACER rating of 4 or below, which is poor condition. Over the next 20 years, if you spent $4 million a year over 20 years, that would do this: keep those roads in poor condition. That's all it would do.
That's all it would do. Because all you could do is mill them and re-top them, right?
Well, yeah.
You're not addressing the base or the underlying issues.
In many cases, that's the problem. Now, when we go in and do a water and sewer, some sort of utility project, and we're going to tear up the roads, that's when we can look at the base and save some money. The problem is money, but I want to tell folks I am laser focused on the streets, and my success in this job, I really think, will be judged on what I'm able to do about the streets. I may be setting myself up for failure by saying that, because every community faces it, but I can tell you I've been there for 30 years. My 5 adult children live there. My 5 grandchildren live in Bay County, and it's important to me that we're driving on good streets. So we have a plan, and I would say within the next I said 100 days. I'm hoping to have a plan before the commissioners more quickly than that on streets.
Where do you get the funding?
Yeah, well, I think the easy thing, and what people get concerned about, is a millage. I've got a little bit of a different idea on that. One of the things we're kicking around is what we're going to be able to do in-house, which requires certain equipment. Some of it we have. There are about 4 pieces of machinery that we would need to do all the work. There's a hybrid option where we use a contractor for some of it, and we do some. Maybe we do the mill and the mill part of it. Maybe someone else does the paving, and then we don't have to, spend $700,000 or $800,000 on a paver that'll cross 2 lanes. We're exploring all those options. I think one of the things that happened in Bay City, in terms of a millage, we bonded, and we had it was a 30-year bond that ended in 2021. Unfortunately, people didn't see or don't think they saw the level of work out there, so the trust is not there for that. And one of the things that happened, really frankly, Art, was the way that bond was structured. The most of that money went to debt service, so it was not a good bond.
Yeah.
So we have to prove that when we're given money, that we're going to use it for what we said we used it for. One way to do that, perhaps, is in the first year to go out and do a significant amount of mill and fill. Now, as I'm sure you know, and some of the public knows, we're late in the game for this season. This is something that we would probably begin in the spring. That's my plan. And I want to prove that when we have some money, that we're good stewards of that money, and it's going to go to local streets. I think maybe a year after that, that might be the time to talk about a millage or potentially even some sort of bond, although that's not my first choice.
Does this call for a restructuring of Bay City government and where money goes within the government?
No, it does not. We're always looking at efficiencies and way to move money around to meet priorities that change from city manager to city manager, that changes from commission to commission. So I wouldn't say it calls for a wholesale restructuring, but I will say that we're always looking for efficiencies and where we can find money to spend it on our priorities.
And what's your relationship with the commission?
Oh, it's wonderful. Now, I have to tell you, Art, as you probably know, I was appointed on a 5-4 vote. I kind of joke that you may see me around town with a ball cap that says 5'4" on it. Please don't think that's my height. I will give you an extra inch that I can't claim. But since coming on board, you always think, am I going to get resistance, whether it's political resistance from the 9 commissioners or whether it's from staff that's been there a long time. Neither of those things have happened. All 9 commissioners have been very welcoming. They're very supportive. They want to see me succeed because they care about their community. And me failing doesn't help the community. They've been great. Absolutely great.
So as you sit in your office looking at the needs of the city, you've already talked about streets. What comes next?
Yeah. So, one of the things you have to do in this position, if you want to be successful, is you do have to, walk and chew gum at the same time. So you're 100% right, Art. I mean, it's streets, it's addressing the bridge issue in whatever manner we're able to do that, but it's jobs, it's housing, it's other infrastructure. We have a couple of fire station issues right now, Station 2 and Station 5.
PFAS issue in one of them, don't you?
The PFAS is an issue at 2. As I was coming on board, there was a plan being presented to build a new fire station. We've since had some conversations with Eagle and discovered that with the state and figured it looks like we can rebuild Station 2 on that site, tear it down, remediate the PFAS. Our understanding from an environmental point right now is that there is surface level PFAS that may go down 2 feet. But it's not something that would be a safety issue for firefighters or for neighbors or anybody else to that property. So public safety is coming up with some options for the commission, whether it's a rebuild on that site or we do end up having to build a new station. But at this point, I think we're leaning toward a rebuild after we remediate the site. And I want to thank, I know you have your your next guest. I want to thank her and our 2 U.S. senators for their help. I know Senator Peters is coming to Bay City soon, and he'll be visiting Station 2. They've helped secure some remediation money, almost $1 million. So the previous administration, I think, previous city manager, Dana Muscat, did a good job of working with our federal partners to secure that money.
All right, we're going to take a pause, and we'll be back. We're talking to Rick Heyman. He is the new Bay City manager, and we'll have more when we return. Talked about streets. I want to talk about them all over the place because potholes are everywhere, and if you hit enough of them, you're going to affect the alignment in your car's drive system. And our friends at Quick Lane Freeland are offering you a complimentary alignment check. That's right, complimentary, no cost. They put your car up on a rack and they check your alignment and they give you a report. And it's absolutely free, and it takes about 15, 20 minutes. And all you do is drive in and ask for it. It's complimentary, it's free, and if you want to know how important your alignment is, I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to explain it.
If your vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires for better fuel mileage.
And, of course, safer driving. Stop in today. While you're there, remember, if you need tires, they sell all of their new tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland, part of the McDonald Ford complex. Stop in today and visit them. McDonald Ford, Quick Lane Freeland, 2 names standing ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026.
Storm Master Exteriors wants...
Hi, we're back with you in studio. Rick Heyman, he is the Bay City manager. I'm going to take out the word new now and just say Bay City manager. He's planted. Just moving away from the city just for a minute here. We were just talking during the break. It's one thing when you were a reporter to cover politics.
Oh.
It's another thing now to have to live with it, which you do. What are your thoughts on the political climate in this country and what's going on?
Honestly, I've loved politics my entire life, and I'm in my 60s, and I don't like it anymore. And I, if I could, I wouldn't even pay attention to it. It's awful. Even within my own house, most of my family tends to be on one side, and because I might not be with them every step of the way, because that's what really is. You're either on Team A or you're on Team B, and the opposite team is the enemy. It's awful.
I tell folks about my late wife. We were married for 57 years, and probably didn't agree on politics very much. But we did agree on one thing. We didn't talk about politics. And that saved us.
And people tell this story all the time, the Ronald Reagan and the Tip O'Neill and having a drink after 5. But there's truth to that. And, we are fortunate, I think, for the most part in Bay County, and putting aside some of the social media stuff, we are fortunate to, I think, have elected officials in particular. And I'm not an elected official, let me be clear. But to have elected officials that have been able to, I think, move on both sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a congresswoman who fits that category who we'll be talking to soon. My old boss, Jim Barsha, I don't think it'd be hard to find a politician that's been around for 50 years who's been able to keep both sides happy. I mean, think of the difference between Bay City politics at the time and the other counties that he represented, which were pretty red. And he was beloved. Well,
and when you look at Jim, if he's listening, sorry, Jim, we're going to talk about him. I always viewed Jim in some ways as a Republican in Democrat clothes, because he runs as a Democrat, and he certainly has some Democrat values, but he's also pro-Second Amendment, pro-hunter, pro-life, the big tests, if you will. He's on that side, so he really is a man of the middle in many ways.
You think about that, and we had a lot of that. John Dingell certainly fell into that category as well. We've had a lot of that in this state. I think that's a good thing. I think it'd be great if we could get back to it. I don't. In my role as a non-elected official, an appointed position, it's my job to be nonpartisan. Now, one of the great benefits of that, and I think you'll appreciate this, Art, as a former journalist, it was true as well. By ethics, I'm not supposed to be partisan. I don't have to go to fundraisers. So I've told all my political friends, I don't have to cut you a check. I can't cut you a check.
That's right.
That's wonderful. It's saving me a lot of money and a lot of hassle at home every time I cut a check.
Yeah,
my wife,
I've been in the same position.
Is aware.
I just I don't know. I just shake my head today. But it is interesting that even journalists, the journalism of your day is different than the journalism of today, unfortunately. I think you were more true to the cause. In the old days, you'd appreciate this. Were newspapers biased? Of course they were. If you looked at the banner on a newspaper, there was the so-and-so Republican, the so-and-so Democrat. However, if you wanted to know what that bias was, you turned to the editorial page. You didn't read it in the news of the day. Yeah. The news was the news, the who, what, where, why, when, how, all the basics. Today, that line is blurred.
Blurred, I think, is being kind. I think
maybe.
I think that line has been crossed. I think it's a sad thing. Look, guys in my position, people in my position, elected leaders, we need to be held accountable, and I think we've lost some of that with the media. With all due respect to the people who are in the media these days, because there's some good ones. The other thing that we've lost, there are no copy editors anymore, right? And there's certainly no copy editors that understand local communities. You see the misspellings, the misidentifications.
Well, everything around here goes to Grand Rapids before you get to see it here.
It's a very, very sad thing to see. And the thing that would never have happened in my days as a news reporter, if I turned in a one-source story,
Rejected.
Absolutely. You think Paul Chafee would have ever let me turn in a one-source story?
Okay, you brought up his name, so I have to
I
tell
did.
this story.
All right.
Paul and I used to do a dog and pony show for former Senator John Siskey, was a professor
Remember, John.
in criminal justice at Saginaw Valley. And we'd go into their fourth level class to talk about the media. And I used to start out with this big spiel about how there's a separation of the business side and the journalistic side in the media. Paul is the editor of the Saginaw News, and never the twain shall meet. And about 2 years before it all folded up, they named Paul editor and publisher. My argument went right out the window. And I said, that's the
right.
beginning of the end. I knew it.
Yeah, Art, it's a sad thing, and I think it's a detriment to democracy. What has happened, to journalism, and I'm not going to mince words about that. That is not casting any aspersions on people, on practitioners.
Who are trying to do the right thing.
They are, but it's. You know why we have one story or one source stories or pretty much reprints of press releases? We have that because they don't have time. These people are stretched so thin. I'm not going to throw
Particularly
names
the
out there.
locals. I mean, it's true.
It's unbelievable. The stuff that they can't cover or that they have to. Luckily, they can watch a lot of things like city commission meetings, online. But yeah, it's incredible. It's awful.
And then there's the internet. Never mind. We'll move on. We're going to take a break, come back. We'll get back to Bay City business. Rick Heyman, our guest, the Bay City manager.
My name is Sophia. I'm an
All right, we're back with you. Rick Heyman in studio, the Bay City manager. You mentioned a couple of other things early on that are not exclusive to Bay City, jobs and housing. You want to get lots of jobs in your community because that strengthens the community in a lot of ways. But you got to have places for these people to live.
Yep.
And that's an ongoing problem today. And how do we solve that?
Yeah, Art, I don't want to pretend to have all the answers. I mean, I think that it starts with getting the right people in the room. We've done a lot of good work in Bay City, both the city itself, the Chamber of Commerce, Bay Future, and in terms of building uptown, building downtown.
She's amazing.
Those are absolutely wonderful. People love to come to our community to visit. We need to find ways, for them to want to stay. And that begins with neighborhoods, that begins with housing, that begins with, frankly, with parks, and that begins with really focusing on a partnership with the schools. We have a housing crisis in this country, period. And, we know there are states that do better than other states, certainly. In Bay City, we've worked with folks to build condos. They're expensive. Young professionals aren't going to be able to afford $300,000 and up condos initially out the gate. I think there's a lot of talk right now about how do we not only build affordable housing, but how do we attract young professionals. One of the things that we did in Burton, I was in Burton, the city of Burton, for almost 10 years. And this isn't the only answer, but you work with developers to target or to especially if it's a self-funded developer who can make loans, provide mortgage opportunities, and provide discounts to young professionals. Now the categories we targeted there were firefighters, police, teachers, nurses. But I can tell you, and I don't know if he still owns the home, but that worked well for the fire chief in Lapeer, who was the deputy fire chief in Burton at the time. Bill, I think it was their first home. I could be wrong about that. Through that program, his wife was a police officer, I think, in Davison. So exactly, the ideal target for rebuilding a community and rebuilding a place through homeownership.
Given Bay City's land availability, the reality of building a whole bunch of single-family homes is pretty narrow. Because, first of all, the land, you need it. Secondly, at $300 a square foot and up,
Yeah.
even a starter home is $400,000. How do you do that? So is the answer in multifamily dwellings? Is that going to be the wave of the future?
I that's certainly part of the conversation. I think one of the things you have in Bay City is Bay City's always been a community of neighborhoods. We just did some rezoning up there, and we had I'm going to guess 20 people at the commission meeting. It was today Wednesday, so that would have been Monday night. Very, very concerned about a change that would have, without getting into detail of zoning law, it essentially would have made the entire city of Bay City, any neighborhood, any residential neighborhood, also an allowable use would have been duplexes. Now, that didn't go beyond duplexes, and the folks on Germania in Bay City were opposed to it. Now, it did end up passing the commission on 8-1 vote. Now we're looking at some things like how can we make an adjustments to protect neighborhoods. So you're right. There really has to be a balance. You also have homeowners sometimes have complaints about too many rentals, and so you have that issue as well. It's finding the balance. I don't know what the ideal mix is.
There's one other issue out there that hangs over a lot of communities. I don't know that Bay City would be a victim of this because I don't know that you have the land for it, but that's data centers. Any thoughts on them?
I honestly don't, because we haven't faced that at this point. That's an issue that typically happens in townships and communities with more land space.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I can't think of any place where we would put a data center in Bay City. Now, Bay County, I think that's a question for your good friend Jim Marshall or his.
And I want to kind of end with that because you've had a relationship with Jim for many, many, many years. But you also have to deal with the commissioners, the board. What do you see as the relationship between the city and the county now?
Yeah, so I was at the county commission meeting yesterday, and I've known Jim for a long time. I consider Jim a friend, and I also will say, and I told the county commission this, that I think this is a new day for the relationship and the cooperation between the commission and the city, in part because I have a relationship with Jim. Now, our interests aren't always going to align. I have a fiduciary responsibility to Bay City. He has one to the county. But the fact that we can have conversations and sometimes sometimes agree to disagree, I think is a good thing. What is generally good for Bay City is good for the county. What is generally good for the county is good for Bay City. I look forward to it. I think, we talked earlier a little bit offline about bipartisanship and about politics in this country online. I think this is a cliche, but infrastructure, roads, fire stations, those aren't partisan issues. They're not Republican or Democrat, and I think we just have to keep that in mind and let the elected leaders take care of the politics.
Amen. Let me know if it works.
We'll see, Art.
Well, Rick, first of all, congratulations on being hired as the Bay City manager. Known him for quite a while, and good guy. Of course, anybody shorter than I am is a good guy. We kid about our height, but that's it,
That's right.
Rick, thanks a lot. Hope we do this again many times in the future.
Thanks, Art. And I do have a little bit more hair than you, so
yeah, I wasn't going to say anything about that. So thanks, Rick. We'll end with that.
Great.
All right, Rick Heyman, the Bay City manager, we thank you for being with us. Congresswoman Kristen McDonald-Rivet comes along next hour after the news, which is next.
We're proud to make